morning. Welcome to Grace Cafe. My name is Mark Ray. Oh, product placement right there, center screen. My buddy Daniel Labry. Let me get got mine up there too. And the other
Welcome
side.
to the Grace
That's
Cafe.
right, the Grace Cafe. We do want to welcome you, ask you to log in, share this site with your friends. We've got a fascinating conversation this morning. My guest is Daniel Labry. He is Vice President of Advancement for Grace School of Theology, the oversight body for Grace Center for Spiritual Development, and ultimately the host for the Grace Cafe. So welcome. We want you to grab a cup of coffee. Come join us. This is going to be a conversation kind of unfolding for the next couple of months. What's going on at the seminary? What's going on at Grace Center for Spiritual Development? So grab that coffee, come sit down, come join us. Let me introduce you to my good friend Daniel Labry. We've known each other, 20 years, maybe more?
I'm not even going to count the years. It's been a while. Yes, it has.
Long time. God has given us the opportunity to work together on a number of occasions. But Daniel is the Vice President of Advancement at Grace School of Theology. Now, give me just an understanding of what's the difference between advancement and donor relations, because there's a major difference between the two. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah. Typically in larger organizations and especially universities and stuff, you're going to find an advancement office. And advancement basically blends all of the development work. So donor relations would fall under the development area or the fundraising area, as well as marketing, because the two really go hand in hand. If we're not communicating with our core base of supporters, our donors, if we're not regularly interacting with them, making sure they're getting the stories of their impact, then you're really missing a very important part of the development function that goes on. And that's really, we talk a lot here at Grace about the difference between relationship and fellowship. The best way to put it is that we don't only want a relationship with our donors, we want to be in fellowship with them. And so when we look at that, that's really the advancement component. And it also puts that entire area plugged into the strategic development of, in this case, the seminary. So we make sure that we are constantly looking at how to advance the organization and put it in a better position to fulfill its mission and vision.
Well, so let me take you back just a moment, because I want to harp on one thing. You talked about the advancement of the organization. An organization doesn't advance unless it's engaged in doing new things. If you do the same thing over and over, unless you are 3-in-1 oil, which created one product and it had the same product for forever, or WD-40, which, by the way, has now added 15 products to their product line.
It's got all kind of uses, yeah.
Yeah. You've got to constantly be bringing new things on to advance the mission of the organization. So advancement also plays a role in the things that are going on, the new things, the creation of things to engage more people with the seminary, and in the case that we're doing with Grace Center for Spiritual Development, to engage them to engage people who don't have a desire to get a degree into still learning about Christ, learning about their faith, deepening their faith. So you've kind of got your finger on the pulse of a tremendous amount that's going on both on the seminary side and the Grace Center side. Have
Absolutely.
I stated that correctly?
Oh, yeah. We get the blessing of looking at the whole view of what God is doing through grace. And again, I purposely say through grace because that includes Grace School of Theology. That includes the Grace Center for Spiritual Development and all the things that are going on. That includes our joint venture with GDI, Global Development Initiatives as well, and looking at how to bring basically the spiritual development, both on the accredited side and the non-accredited side, into some areas of the world where it may not be financially feasible for us to be there as a school or seminary, but there are other ways that we can partner to, again, develop spiritual leaders in those nations.
So let's dive in. If you're VP of Advancement, give us pull back the flap of the tent for a moment and give us a peek inside Grace School of Theology, the degree granting side of Grace, and give us an idea of what are some of the new things, what are some of the things that you're excited about coming up in the next 3 months, 6 months, before the end of the year. What are some of
Oh
the
yeah.
exciting things that are happening through Grace School of Theology?
Well, I mean, first off, it's just let's stop to thank God for what He's already been doing. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, I have a presentation coming up next week to a group of Christian businessmen and women down in Houston. And one of the things that when we were prepping this, and they really started to ask about, was the growth of the school. And so we actually have, I'm looking over here at this stat, over the past 10 years, we've grown by over 1,000%.
Hmm.
I mean, even just this last summer. So let's take those numbers. And so that's basically growing from about 54 students to last semester, last spring, to over 600 students. And so when you look at that growth of the seminary on the degree granting side, this doesn't include all of our other stuff that we're doing, but just on those that are actually enrolled, they have gone through the application process, they are pursuing a degree. That's over 600 students now. Now, a lot of people know that our footprint is also not just here in the States. It's not just in the Houston area where we're based, but in the States, we've got students from about 26 different states. That student population represents about 33% of our student body. The other two-thirds, another 67%, are spread across 38 nations around the world. I mean, that's what's beautiful, is that God has built through our donor support. We talked about the donor side of advancement, the donor relations and development that we do. Those donors' investment over those past 10 years has built an infrastructure for us. So our curriculum programs are in place. They are accredited by the two most prestigious accrediting agencies in the world for theological schools, but ATS, the Association of Theological Schools, and TRACS, a transnational association. And then also the donors have not only helped put together the academic side, the curriculum, not only have they helped us accredit those programs, so we know that these are some of the best seminary programs that are available out there, so advanced theological training, but they've also helped us build the technology infrastructure. I mean, we're using right now, this is one of our cloud-based classrooms. Using this same technology, we could have another almost 100 people sitting in this classroom. So on these little thumbnails, each of us logged on from wherever we are. That's the cloud-based classrooms that we use to reach across country boundaries, across cultures, so that these students that are taking these programs, they can learn, they can study advanced theological education right from where they live, work, and serve. And so, that's tremendous. Again, so that growth, and even just this summer, we just got a report yesterday from our registrar. We have set another semester enrollment. And I thought last night when I read this, you know what, I need to go back and count now. But I think we have now set a record enrollment every semester for at least 5+ years. And so this summer, 394 students versus 351 students last summer. So again, another growth. That's an increase of about 12%. But what's really exciting too is even on our domestic side. So the U.S. students, these are our full rate paying students. Internationally, all those tuition amounts are discounted. But even domestically, we grew by 17.6% compared to the previous summer. So there is definitely a hunger out there for advanced theological training. The enrollment numbers show that.
And one of the things that sets Grace School of Theology apart is accredited with no residency required. All the degree programs are available online. And available online in how many countries? 33?
38.
36?
38 nations.
38?
38.
38 nations.
38 nations, and I need to count because there may be one that may be a new one that I saw for registered in spring, but that official number, or for fall, that official number will be later this fall, so it may be 39 now.
So that's marvelous news about what God's been doing with the seminary. What are some new things on the horizon that both students and prospective students might be able to participate in?
Yeah. And we just kicked off classes. So classes kicked off on August 12th. So Grace is structured with a pretty unique program because we have 8-week modules. And that's part of how a student can quickly advance through their degree programs. And so we want it to be, very attainable for students. This isn't, we love lifelong learning. We don't want it to be a lifelong degree pursuit. But so those 8-week modules will allow somebody to move through those degree programs pretty quickly, and then obviously build onto those degree programs if they want to
Right.
go for some of the higher degrees. But with that 8-week module, basically that means that, hey, students that are out there that are still interested, you know what? They could start in Module 2. That starts in October 29th. Or they could start in Module 3 in January, or Module 4. So in other words, there are 5 different entry points. We have 5 modules a year that students could really start one of those degree programs with. But the other thing to really kind of get a taste of what's going on, a lot of students kind of in the recruiting process, they'll meet a lot of our faculty and various staff members that are here. But let me check the date, on Thursday, September 12th, we're actually going to have a chapel service. So we're going to start a regular monthly chapel service during the academic year. We had the blessing of doing 2 of those at the end of last year. And as a matter of fact, in May, the gentleman who did our chapel service was Dr. Harold Rawlings. And he
Yes.
shared with us his story of Englishing the Bible, his trial by fire. And you actually got to spend some time in the studio with him. And y'all recorded what? How many sessions did you record with him?
We recorded six 20-minute sessions as we walked through the historical events surrounding getting the Bible translated into the English language, which we take for granted today.
Yeah.
And as a matter
I
of
mean,
fact,
incredible story.
not to put too small a point to it, but very soon that entire interview
Yes.
will be available through our Grace on Demand platform that we'll be launching here, hopefully in the next 30 days, 45 days
Yeah.
maybe.
And that's
So that'll be
exactly
available
where
for
I
you to
was
watch.
going to go with it, because I know that you got those queued up real soon to be able to share with people. So those, we did a little, 30 to 45 minute chapel service, but there's going to be a 6 seminar series that you did with him that's going to be coming available. But for those out there that are going, okay, I want to learn a little bit more about Grace and kind of see what the energy and vibe is and how y'all do this, I would invite folks to join us on Thursday, September 12th for our next chapel. That's the chapel kind of kicking off this academic year. And Dr. Mark Haywood, who's our VP of Student Services, he's one of our one of the favorites among students, and he teaches a legendary class on Bible study principles that people absolutely love. But Dr. Haywood is going to be delivering our chapel on the 12th, and that's not only a chapel here. Yeah, we're going to gather here physically in the Woodlands on campus, but then also our students from all around the world. For those that can log in, they're going to log on live, just like we're live in this cloud-based classroom, and they'll be able to participate. There'll be a time of worship, and there's going to be the message and just an update for students and faculty and staff. We have donors that come in and join us, but the main thing is it's open to anybody. So the registration will be there that you can listen. We'll also stream it on Facebook Live, just like we're doing right now. And so that's an easy way. That's going to be how we kick off our semester, is with that chapel service.
Fantastic. Any new courses that we ought to know about? Any new offerings that are coming up, or is it are the offerings that are there the vast variety of offerings for the degree programs? Anything new that's kicking off, or we're launching with the same great course offerings?
Yeah, well, we've got 12 academic programs. So there's definitely a variety of classes, of courses that are offered throughout those degree programs. One of the new programs that we've highlighted here, hopefully people have been able to tune into that, especially if you're watching us on Facebook. Hopefully you've seen a lot of those opportunities, but is our chaplaincy program. That program continues to grow. It's not only on the degree side offering, and we have some of our first chaplains that are going through we've got a certificate program. We've got a Master's of Chaplaincy program. We've got a Master's of Military Chaplaincy. And then it's also a focus for our MDiv degree for those that want to do chaplaincy at the hospital level. But they also offer some non-degree things as well, things that they're in partnership with the Grace Center on, different seminars that our partner CareForce is offering on a regular basis, and even training. I guess one of the things, hopefully we'll get to a little bit later, but they have a training coming up later in September out in Midland, where they're going to help churches basically train the care force, if you will, in churches that can develop care teams in those churches as a regular part of their ministry. And so that is a critical one.
Yeah, it's it's nothing short of, and maybe ironic is the wrong word, but historically, having had what just happened in the weekend, over the weekend in Midland, with here's a guy who went on a rampage and killed 7 people and injured 25. And I've been reading posts from friends of mine in Midland who said, we're safe, we're locked inside our house. But the trauma of something like that leaves people with, where do I go to find answers? Which is a beautiful thing that the churches ought to be able to respond to. But let me be very blunt. Rarely are pastors trained in how to walk people through those kind of crisis situations, if you will. It's exactly what chaplaincy is for. And none too soon that our team is going to be out there in Midland teaching and training people how to walk through that.
Yeah, and again, it's who would have thought? I mean, Midland. But again, they've obviously God's already prompting them to, hey, let's take an additional step. Let's, and some of the churches out there, let's get some care teams together. Let's be ready for crisis in our community. And you're right. Look what happened last week. And another example of a crisis. But that's one of the reasons why it's not just about the academic programs, but it's making sure that we are able to come in. I mean, Grace's whole heart is developing spiritual leaders that can teach others about the love of Christ. Those care teams that we can help churches develop, and we've got a great chaplain team that's doing that. They've got a great coursework and training to get people, whether it's at the non-degree level or at the degree level, but trained in chaplaincy and emergency response and crisis response, how to integrate with the other services that are available in those communities and their own communities. And that's critical for the church to play that role. I mean, you know, we're talking about Midland last week, but just think over the past year, the past couple of years, of the various communities that have been, you know, hit with the mass shootings and other things like that. We want to make sure that the church is ready to respond to that. And that takes trained spiritual leaders that know how to respond.
No place is immune to it. So you've walked us through the degree side. One of the unique things that Grace School of Theology has done is created basically an offering of training, same mission statement, training spiritual leaders around the world who can teach others about the love of Christ, the love that can't be lost, that can't be earned. But there's also an arm of Grace School of Theology that attaches itself to people interested in continuing to learn, continuing to grow in their faith, but don't have a desire to launch into a degree program. They don't have the time, the effort, the energy. They don't want to study at that level. They don't want the expense. And that's Grace Center for Spiritual Development. Talk to us a little bit about that. And I know this is a little bit self-serving. But it's also one of the most exciting things that we're doing. You head up advancement. So give us some of the advanced look at what's going on in Grace Center. How is it partnering with the seminary? What are some of those new things that people can begin to engage with?
Yeah. And number one, let me just take a step back and let those that are listening know, you know, part of what we did, it's not we're just going, hey, here's the degree programs that we offer. Come get advanced theological training. But we've listened. We've listened to our church partners. We've listened to our students. We've listened to the many donors and friends that Grace has out there. And we heard that. We heard for a lot of them, you know, man, I would love to do some of that type of seminary study, but I just don't have the time. or, where I am in my career or family, or, for some of our folks that are working in churches, life and ministry, it's a lot. And so they're not able to commit to that degree side. And so we began to look at, all right, and I love the term, Mark, that you gave it. You started talking about the different levels of learning. And we started with the basic stuff. We started with, all right, let's take some of this incredible content that is taught in our classes, and let's begin to package it to share in a way for those that can't enroll and commit to a study program. And so the very lowest level of learning, hey, we started doing the devotions. And so, yes, we've got some devotional booklets, but most important, hopefully some of you out there are part of the 330 million people worldwide that use the YouVersion Bible app. And so we've partnered with some folks to help us get some of our seminary content on the YouVersion Bible app. And I checked the stats, and we're actually a month behind because we just started a new month. I need to get what our August numbers are. But of the end of summer, we have over 420,000 people around the world that have subscribed to our devotions. Over 250,000 of them, 250,000 have completed devotional studies. Some of those devotional studies are 3 days, some of them are 7 days, some of them are 10 days, but we've got a variety of devotional studies out there. So if you're using YouVersion, I would encourage you, go to the devotions area, they call it plans, click on the plans area, click on the search button, and search for gsot.edu. And that will pull up almost all of the Grace devotions that are on there. And I think we have, over a couple of dozen now that are up. But those 422,000 or 23,000 people that have subscribed, they've also done, this is what I love about it. Here's a low level of learning, but we have sparked with those devotional plans over 1.2 million days of scripture engagement. That's a very simple way. When we talk about levels of learning, hey, if you just want to do some devotions, but then obviously beyond the devotions, yes, now we've started to offer Bible studies. You can do them live. You can do them online. We've got workshops that are coming. Let's spend a little time. Don't let me forget. Let's talk about basic before we get off of this today.
Yeah.
But so we've got live workshops that are out there. You mentioned on-demand earlier. Later this spring, you're also going to start to see some of the on-demand courses that are going to be offered as we roll out Grace on Demand. But each one of those is, hey, if you want to go a little bit deeper, all right, here's a devotion. Here's a Bible study. Oh, well, here's a seminar or a workshop. Oh, well, here's an on-demand course that you can do over multiple weeks. And it's like, and if you're going to go beyond that, we've got conferences and the other training in there, or all the way to, enroll in the degree program. So I think what we've got laid out is we're covering, no matter where you are in wanting to develop and grow as a spiritual leader, we've got a level of learning that is just right for you. And now that infrastructure is kind of in place, and we have a few more pieces, like you said, Grace on Demand, that'll be launching here in the coming weeks, I hope. It's that close, folks. It's almost there, and that's going to be on-demand learning. So basically online, anytime, anywhere, for anyone that'll be able to get on and take advantage of those courses. But we've got all those levels of learning covered. You can engage. You can start to grow spiritually by engaging with us in just about any one of those areas.
That's a lot. That's a lot getting ready to launch.
Yes, it is.
So we didn't want to leave in this levels of learning. We've got devotional studies. We've got some Bible studies that are starting. Dwight Edwards has a fall study that he's going to be doing. We're doing a men's and a women's Philippians study starting actually next week. And then we've got, you can go back through our podcast. You can go back through studies that we've done previously. You can download our study guides. Part of our purpose is we want to make sure that when you learn it, you've got the tools to be able to turn around and go teach it. That's what training spiritual leaders is all about. Let's talk for a moment, because you got your finger on the pulse of this as well. Let's talk about basic. You mentioned the word. We're launching something new we heard from a number of our partners. We've got levels of training for people that haven't yet even determined whether they want to be in ministry, whether they want to go to seminary, whether they need that level of training. So we've created what's called BASIC. Talk to us about BASIC for a minute.
Yeah. Now, BASIC, as a matter of fact, here, look, folks, it's close. Look, they've even got the logo. They're working on the study guides. But BASIC, and I love the term that y'all came up with. So we're talking about, I'm gonna look so make sure I don't mess it up. We're talking about biblical application for service in Christ. So that's the acronym that y'all came up, BASIC. But here's the way that I've been explaining it to people, and I love this because again, we've listened, and I've had plenty of people tell me, man, I'd love to do seminary level training. I just don't have the time. So here's what y'all have done in Daniel's terms. Y'all have taken seminary and you've crammed it into about 18 hours. To start with, there are 6 different modules of about 3 hours each, but each one of those modules addresses, I love this, the basic of Bible study, the basic of theology. You know, Bible on the basic of Bible study. We were talking about Mark Haywood doing the chapel on September 12th. That's what he's known for. This is his puppy. So we've taken Dr. Haywood's course, that he teaches over an 8-week module, and we've said, okay, Dean, we need to get this down to where we could teach it in a seminar workshop setting. So he's kind of crammed that 8 weeks into, okay, if we had to do that in a couple of hours, in 2 to 3 hours, here it is. That's basic. So you might not be able to do the 8-week class and all the extra work and reading that's related to that, but let us give you a 2 to 3 hour taste of that. Basic of Bible study. So same thing with basic of theology. And as a matter of fact, we have some different things that are coming up. Obviously, we're constantly talking about theology, but it's like, what is all those steps? What are all those different ologies that you all often reference? It's like eschatology and soteriology and all these things. Great. You know what? Here's the basic of theology altogether. A basic of grace, basic ministry, basic discipleship, basic biblical counseling. And I know you guys are working on basic worship and basic evangelism, but it's like those are some of the core that we're looking at. Now that's a look at our first roll at. That's the basic for ministers, but then we've also got basic for chaplaincy coming up. So again, here's that whole chaplaincy program, and here's a 29-hour graduate certificate in chaplaincy, or here's a 40-hour practical chaplaincy training. Well, we're going to cram it down even further, and hey, here's basic of chaplaincy. 6 modules.
6 hours.
Couple hours
6
each.
hours.
6 hours. So, again, to get a real quick look at chaplaincy. And then there's also, let's see if I've got this correct. So we've got basic for ministers about to roll out. We've got basic of chaplaincy that basically is already there, pardon the pun.
Yep.
They're putting it in the workbooks and everything to getting ready to train. But then we also have basic for marketplace. So
Yep.
for our men and women that are out in the marketplace working full time, what does your faith look like in the workplace? Biblically, what is your look at work? What is your understanding of the work that you're doing, the ministry field that God has you in? So that's basic for marketplace coming up. And then I also believe y'all got a basic for believers, which is for any believer that is out there. Hey, let's really look at the basics. So again, I think that is going to open up an entire new, it's an entire new student body. Because these are the types of workshops that you can do in a couple of hours. This is the type of stuff that, hey, if you're going to go do a special program at your church over the weekend, over a couple of weekends, that's what basic is. And we've already got church partners and some other ministry partners lining up to help us roll this out. So that's extremely exciting.
The basic for minister or basic for believers, the newest one we're in the process of developing, it'll have basics of Bible study. We believe that every believer ought to understand how to study the scriptures. We will have the basics of theology, and the reason for that is this is an understanding of end times, an understanding of salvation, an understanding of the Trinity,
Love
high
it.
level view, but another, and then the final part of this is going to be the basics of the spiritual life. How do I actually live out my faith? What is it all about? Those are the three major modules that are going to be a part and associated with basics for believers, at least at present. So
Yeah.
those basics were ministers were in the final stages of creating the student workbooks. Chaplaincy, the workbook has just finished being created. The workbook is being finished up for Marketplace, and the workbook is being presented for believers to do a first round draft edit on that one. Another exciting thing that we're getting ready to do, we're also developing alongside of this an instructor network.
Yes.
So if you would like to be certified by us to go teach these, if you're a pastor, if you've gotten your seminary degree, if you're at a level where you've taught, we're going to walk through a
Grace
certification
alumni
program.
out there, Grace alumni.
Grace alumni. That's right.
We've got a growing body of Grace School of Theology alumni. Tune into this. If you're interested in teaching these basic courses, that certified
Right.
training is coming.
And from that, we'll also be looking for Grace graduates to help us translate these. So we would like to see basic move into multiple languages around the world, and we need that translation help. So if you've graduated from here and could help us translate that, let us know. We've got a lot of content that's coming out, and especially in 2020, that's going to we really think is going to open the door for a whole lot of new potential students, existing students, people to engage with us in this marvelous content that's been developed. So I'm looking at the clock. We're winding down. What is the one thing, Daniel, as we kind of wrap this thing up? What's the one thing that you're excited about, and then how do people get engaged with us? How do they find us? How do they figure out what to do and to get registered?
Because obviously they hear our excitement about basic coming up. They hear our excitement about on demand, because that means, again, anytime, anybody, anywhere, you're going to be able to access this type of training and go through it. But you know what? I'm going to take over the screen real quick because I want to share when it comes to how do you get this information. And there's a couple of different ways. Number one, I'll just let everybody know that's out there, and we've got some people that are writing comments for us in the comment field and put this one out there. But if you want to know what the latest news is, to make sure you're email subscribed and you're getting our emails and everything, and believe it or not, there are people out there that still use email. I was reading a study last week. There's still about a third of us that email is a primary way that is a communication channel that we consume. So for the third of you who are email users, I would encourage you to send us an email at news. So you want the latest news, NEWS, news@gsot.edu. And if you email us there, we'll make sure your email is put on our email list. And so that's an easy one for email users that aren't social media, inclined. But for those of you who also like the communication channel of a website, you can also go, as a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if I'm going to take over here. And let me know, look here, hopefully y'all are seeing this. I'm going to take you to the Grace Center page.
There we go.
All right,
yeah,
so we're looking at the Grace Center for Spiritual Development. So if you go to GSOT, so Grace School of Theology, gsot.edu/center, you're going to get to the Grace Center for Spiritual Development right here on this page. So for those of you who are a little bit more, you prefer going to a website somewhere, if you scroll down on this page, you're going to see an email subscription right here. This happens to be for Maximum Joy. If we scroll over here on the main banner, you mentioned Dwight Edwards' study coming up. Here's No Greater Story 2.0. So this is the discipleship, becoming the disciple maker version of No Greater Story. Those click to register buttons, if you register on any of those sites, that's also going to put your email into our communication list. and you'll start getting information about the Bible studies and things that are coming up. The other thing that I would encourage, I've got email users covered. I've got website users covered. For those of you who love your smartphone device, if you're like me and you're living on this thing, take a look at the screen. If you scroll down a little further on the Grace Center web page there, you're going to find the Grace app. So we actually have an app developed, whether you're an Apple phone person or an Android phone person, download the appropriate app there, and you see the little image over there. Basically, you're going to have access to all podcasts, all the devotionals, all the study guides, the news that's coming out. The app is really the best way to stay connected with everything that is happening with Grace Center for Spiritual Development. And what I would encourage you to do is not only download the app, but once you get it downloaded, create a profile. And so that's where you register with us. And obviously, if you're using the app and you register with us, so now we've got your information, you're going to start getting those notices as well. But here's our main communication channel. So we got our email users. We got our people that prefer websites. We've got our smart device, smartphone users and tablet users. But what I would really encourage you to do, I just switched over to the Grace School of Theology Facebook page. Now, for those that are listening to us, because we're on Facebook Live, this is probably your preferred communication channel, or at least you're savvy enough on Facebook to be able to get that information. If you haven't gone over to our Facebook page and liked us, please do a like there. That means that our information will start appearing in your timeline. But if you scroll down, here's all the different messages, everything that's up there. But you're going to see the section on upcoming events. Right there you see, Mark, you mentioned the Philippians Ladies Bible Study. That's starting on September 10th. There it is right there. Click on it and you'll be able to register. On September 11th, there's the Philippians Men's Bible Study. On September 12th, there's that chapel service that I talked about. Each one of those, if you click on them, you can register. I'm going to open it up so that we're looking at all of those. There's the Bible studies. There's that practical chaplaincy training for anybody out in Midland that you're going, wow, man, especially with what just happened. I would love to get that crisis care training. There's the program for you right there. And with that link, it'll take you to the registration. Upcoming underneath here, you're going to see the other opportunities that are there. Also on September 19th, we have an online seminar coming up on free grace soteriology. And don't worry for our Spanish-speaking friends that are out there. Again, over half of our student body here at Grace is Spanish-speaking. We are not leaving you behind either. On September 27th, Dr. Ezekiel Serrato is also going to be doing a Grace Soteriology seminar. But as you can see on each one of these, all you have to do, and I'll go use the men's Bible study here, all you have to do is click on it. You're going to get all the information there, all the dates and time that it's being offered, and where it says tickets, this is a free seminar, we're not going to charge you anything, but where it says tickets there, find tickets, if you click there, that's how you would register off of our Facebook pages as well. So hopefully, for those of you who are listening today, go over to the GSOT website or Facebook page, give us a like there. I'd also encourage you, because of a lot of the stuff that we do content-wise is underneath the Grace Center for Spiritual Development, I would very much encourage you to go over to the Grace Center for Spiritual Development as well on that timeline page. All of these sessions, if you want to share one of these sessions with your friend, our Facebook live Grace Cafe sessions that we do, they're all listed there. You're going to get information about upcoming studies. There it is. There's the Philippian study and the upcoming events that are there as well. So either one of those directions is a way that people can interact with us. And so we've tried to cover just about everybody's preferred communication channel. So everything from if you just want to send us an email, if you want to go to the website, if you want to use our app, the Grace app on your smartphone device, if you want to interact with us on social media, we just kind of delved into Facebook because we're here doing Facebook Live. You'll also find us on Instagram. You'll find us on Twitter. You'll find us on LinkedIn. We're giving you just about every avenue possible to join us. Don't only have a relationship with us, come into fellowship with us and let us help develop you as a spiritual leader.
I need to probably go take a shower. I'm worn out with all of the stuff. It feels like I've had a big workout with all the stuff that's
why
there.
I'm drinking
Daniel,
my
thank
water
you for
here.
spending time. Yeah, thank you for spending time with us this morning. Those of you on Grace Cafe, thank you for joining us this morning. Share this with your friends. And again, lots of information here. Communicate with us. Thanks for joining us. Daniel, thank you for being a part of this.
You
Next
bet.
week will be my good friend, Dr. Fred Shea, and we're going to be tackling Hebrews 6 and Hebrews 10. So you certainly want to be a part of that next week. Thank you, friends.
Yeah,
Appreciate you joining us. Thanks again.
And if you like next week with Fred Shea, there's a chance to get a view. Come back and register for the September,
That's right.
September
There you go.
19th, when he's going to do
That's right.
a seminar as well on soteriology.
That's right.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Thanks.